Imagine, if you will, standing on a battlefield in 1781. The air is thick with smoke, muskets crack, and the roar of cannons echoes all around. The young American rebels, exhausted, bloodied, and outnumbered, face the overwhelming might of the greatest empire on earth. And then, imagine the unthinkable. The British do not surrender at Yorktown. Washington's gamble, it fails. The revolution collapses. The United States of America, the nation we know today, never comes into being. This is one of history's greatest turning points. And yet, what if it had turned the other way? What if America had lost the Revolutionary War? What would our world look like then? You see, the American Revolution, it was not, I repeat, not a guaranteed victory. In fact, if we really think about it, by all logic of the time, it should have been a failure. I mean, Britain had the strongest navy in the world. They had a professional army, endless resources, and the loyalty of so many colonists who were just against independence. But the Americans, they had their militias, volunteers, and some foreign aid from France, but most importantly, they had determination. But let me tell you, that determination, it could have easily shattered. Without France stepping in 1778, without Washington's relentless leadership, without that miracle at Yorktown in 1781, the rebellion could have been snuffed out. And if that happened, the consequences would have been staggering. To really grasp the enormity of it all, we must imagine step by step. If America had lost, it would have been a completely different story. Britain would have stepped back in and reasserted its control over those 13 colonies. And think about the rebellion's leaders, Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Franklin. They would have faced some really grim fates. Some might have fled into exile, while others, well, they could have been executed for treason. The dream of liberty, it would have ended in gallows and exile, not in independence and a constitution. But it doesn't just stop there, right? Britain would have completely reshaped North America. Those 13 colonies, they would have been reorganized into provinces, governed directly by the crown. Loyalists, those who sided with Britain, they would have gained influence, while the patriots, they would have been crushed into silence. And what about those powerful ideas that flew? In reality, America's victory reshaped the world in such a profound way. It was like a spark that ignited a republic built on those incredible Enlightenment ideals. This wasn't just about one nation. It inspired revolutions in places like France, Latin America, and beyond. It set the stage for the United States to rise as this industrial and military superpower whose influence literally shaped the entire 20th century. But let's take a moment to imagine an alternate timeline where none of that happens. Instead, Britain retains its empire across the Atlantic, and North America transforms into this dazzling jewel of the crown, fueling Britain's power even further. Can you picture it? Canada and the colonies merging into this vast British dominion centuries before Canada itself even emerged. And instead of the British Empire fading in the 19th century, step one, suppression of rebellion. After crushing the revolution, Britain would impose harsh measures. Militias would be disarmed. Colonial assemblies stripped of their autonomy. Loyalists, they would be rewarded with land and power. A new order, harsh but decisive. Step two, delayed independence. Without a successful revolution, North American independence, it might not emerge until the mid-1800s. Can you imagine? It could have come slowly, like Canada's, through negotiation and reform, not through bloody rebellion. But, it would lack those fierce ideals of radical democracy we hold dear. Step three, slavery and expansion. In our reality, America expanded westward, a battleground over slavery. But under British control? That expansion might have been a slower march. Britain had already abolished the slave trade in 1807 and slavery itself in 1833. If culture had taken a different path, the American identity, built on rebellion, independence, and self-governance, might not even exist. Instead, we would have seen colonial society remain solidly British. Can you imagine? The notion of a unique American culture, bursting with that frontier spirit, the bold democratic experiment, and the vibrant melting pot of immigrants would have just been swallowed by imperial traditions. Art, literature, and political philosophy would have lacked those groundbreaking voices. There'd be no Federalist Papers, no Declaration of Independence resonating through the ages. The cultural myth of the self-made individual, the pioneer, the dreamer of freedom, wouldn't shape the world's imagination at all. And think about technology. America became this powerhouse of invention in the 19th and 20th centuries. From the telegraph, this whole what if thing really opens our eyes to something much bigger, right? It shows just how fragile the flow of history can be. I mean, think about it. One battle lost, one alliance shattered, one leader silenced, and suddenly the world looks completely different. It makes us ponder, is liberty something that was meant to be, or was it just a delicate twist of fate, achieved through a string of unlikely victories? The real American Revolution? Oh, it did so much more than just create a nation. It sparked a fire that spread across Europe, Latin America, Africa, and Asia. It empowered regular folks to believe that kings could fall and that people could govern themselves. Without that revolution, who knows how long monarchies might have lasted, how much stronger empires could have become, or how delayed or diminished the very idea of democracy might have been. And even in the thought is staggering, isn't it? I mean, if America had lost the Revolutionary War, can you even imagine? We might not be living in a world where American superpower reigns, where Hollywood dazzles, where Silicon Valley innovates, or where global democracy thrives. Instead, we could still be under the shadow of empire, with Britain, not the United States, calling the shots. History was hanging by a thread back in the 1770s. The victory at Yorktown, it was anything but a sure thing. It was fragile, precarious, and honestly, improbable. If things had gone a different way, those cherished ideals of liberty and independence that we so casually embrace today, they might never have reached the corners of the world that they have. So let's take a moment to ponder, how drastically different would our lives be if America's revolution had failed? That question, it lingers, doesn't it? It